On today's episode of Beyond Resilience, our hosts, Dr. Jamie Renbarger and Katherine Haffey, are exploring the importance of food and nutrition in maintaining a healthy lifestyle and bringing you their top tips for incorporating healthy eating into daily life. As always, we thank you for tuning in and supporting our podcast. We love having you with us.
Katherine, hello there.
Hi, Jamie. Welcome to Beyond Resilience and Radiance. They're all kind of on my mind today as I'm thinking about today. How are you?
You know, I am doing okay today. You know, some days are really, really wonderful and some days are harder than others. And today it's a little gloomy outside here and I am, I'm here. I'm showing up and excited to talk with you and just trying to be in the moment. So, yeah. How about you?
I'm doing well. I am excited. I opened up the door this morning and heard the birds singing. And so, yes, I got my nails done yesterday and they're all nice and bright pink because I feel like it's spring. And it's really not like me, but it's kind of fun. It's springy. So I'm trying to bring the mood in, you know, the bright colors and the birds singing. And I wish that for you today on this maybe not so sunny day.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Anything in particular on your heart as we're about to launch into this conversation?
No, I'm really, really excited. This is probably one of my most favorite topics to talk about is food. I love food, but the power behind food. And so when we think about what the conversation is going to unfold, I hope this is super helpful and that you guys really kind of get out some gold nuggets out of this. It's a fun topic. It's something that you think about. We do 3 times a day. We do it more than anything else. Yes. And it's something we need to probably be a little more intentional about.
We recorded an episode recently about our top 5 tips for staying healthy, being healthy during treatment, after cancer treatment, and even as a way to prevent getting cancer or other kinds of significant illnesses. And now we are going to do a few episodes. This is the first one we're recording, where we're diving into one of those. And food it is. Yes. So something, as Katherine said, near and dear to both of our hearts and and at the centerpiece of life, right? We need food to survive and to fuel healthy bodies. So where should we start? I guess I'm curious as we sit here about what is the most common question you get related to food from your wellness coaching clients, and how do you respond?
Oh, it's a tough one because there are many, right? So it is probably the most talked about topic that I hear from women after their breast cancer treatment. And even it's so cool that what we talk about after breast cancer treatment applies to before. So people that are interested in breast cancer prevention, these are the same answers. There's no list for one and one for another. They're the same answers that I usually give to women. And I say that one food in particular would be probably, I would be misinforming women out there, but I really believe that if you think about let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food from Hippocrates, you walk into your grocery store and what's the first thing that you see if you go into your produce section? That is your pharmacy. So it's a neat way to think about it. You see all the color and all that color is just full of antioxidants that are so amazing for your body and makes you feel good, give you energy, fight disease. So, you know, I think starting there, spending more time in that section maybe than any other section when you go into the grocery store, trying new foods you haven't tried before, picking up a color, because the more color and pigment that are in these fruits and vegetables, the higher the antioxidant value is. But you know, it's just it is really difficult to pick one, but if I had to pick a group of fruits and vegetables, or common recommendation that I might recommend to a woman might be, load up on the cruciferous veggies. Just try them all. There's a bunch of them. There's like 14 different kinds, and try to collect a recipe that uses many, or just experiment and try different ones. Some of them I'll be honest, I absolutely love. You can put them in smoothies and kind of hide the taste a little bit, and others I'm not so fond of. So you can pick and choose which ones that you like, but it's a great, very anti-disease fighting food. I call these one of my superpower foods, and it's definitely high on the list.
Yeah. So what are your favorites? I'm curious.
I love broccoli, and I know that might seem odd, but I really do. I love broccoli. I love cauliflower. I love watercress. So, different types of greens, kale. Love spinach. I kind of have to watch the spinach though, with the oxalic acid, and leaching the calcium out of the bones. But I love, what else? I love bok choy, and I love Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts were all the rave, right, for Thanksgiving. It's like everybody hated Brussels sprouts. Then all of a sudden they got hot.
Yes.
And everybody was like trying to make something with a Brussels sprout. Like, how did this happen that they became actually palatable? But there are lots of ways that you can cook them and make them into salads, shred them in a food processor, or cook them and roast them with different types of things. And
Yes.
I know they're and they're at restaurants everywhere, right?
Yes.
as a side. So, yes. How about you? What are some of your favorite? What are some of your favorite foods that would be maybe high on your list to fight disease?
Yeah. So I'm with you. I love fruits and vegetables of all kinds, and I really like a variety. And it is, it's fun for me. Maybe I'm a little weird, but it's fun to make, a colorful salad that mixes in some fruits and some nuts, and to get some of those good oils in there and those kinds of things.
Ooh, it's making me hungry. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And then I love, my NutriBullet and mixing lots of good things in to make healthy smoothies. And I think one of the reasons that I really love that approach is that something I really struggle with is getting enough protein. Right. Yeah. We touched a little bit on this in our overview talk, but especially as we age, and this is for men and women, and as we're recovering from illness and something like cancer and cancer treatment, there's often a lot of muscle wasting can happen during cancer treatment as our bodies and as this disease looks to take all the sort of cellular building components it can to make these badass cells, right? And so getting adequate protein is so important, and a smoothie is a great way to easily do that. To, add a little protein powder in, either a vegan protein powder or I often use a whey-based protein powder, and to really have a super nutrient packed meal that I can take with me anywhere. So that tends to be kind of a go-to for me.
So I'm curious, Jamie. So what would be, if you had to name the main components of a ultimate smoothie, what would it have in it?
Yeah. So I might disappoint you a little bit because some of my closest friends have these smoothies where they clean out all the stuff in their refrigerator and put spinach and cucumbers and all sorts of crazy things in smoothies, and lots of people do. I tend to be pretty basic, right? And to mix in often berries, protein powder, a little bit of some kind of often oat milk or a little yogurt, and a squeeze of honey. Honey is, I have a sweet tooth, and honey is often my go-to sweetener.
Yeah.
I do my best, although I certainly don't completely avoid sugar, but I definitely do my best to find alternatives, and honey is a great one in so many ways. So
I agree with you totally. Honey is on my list too. I love date syrup or dates are great, or even like a dried cherries. I'll add if I'm doing, something with cherries, frozen cherries, adding some dried cherries in there. I mean, you have to kind of watch the concentrated sugar in there, but to add a little bit, a tablespoon of that good stuff is really a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So speaking of, what would be on your list of foods that maybe our listeners might avoid?
Yeah. So great question. A big one for me definitely is to try to minimize processed sugar, and high fructose corn syrups, right? So, if I think that's first and foremost, both in terms of staying healthy, preventing cancer, but also preventing lots of other kinds of serious illnesses that we are prone to as we age, right? Things like metabolic syndrome and insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, and even heart disease. So sugar is high on my list, not to completely avoid, but to really pay attention to and try to minimize. The other biggie for me is cured, smoked, and processed meats, right? So lunch meat, pepperoni, bacon, other kinds of cured meats are known. There's a clear association with intake of these kinds of products and risk for cancer, and especially GI cancers, but a whole variety of kinds of cancers. So I think those are my two biggies. What about for you?
I agree with that. It's interesting to note that the World Health Organization did label, categorize these types of meats that you're talking about as as carcinogenic. And I think about that. We're still eating away at all these foods that are amazing, but there are good substitutes out there. And that brings me to maybe label reading. We need to be really good at reading labels on foods. And heck, we could do another session on that, just bringing out a label and showing people exactly, because high fructose corn sugar masquerades as lots of different type of other names, and you need to be aware of that. And it's put in just about everything you can think of. So we need to be really diligent and knowledgeable. Knowledge is power, right? In trying to prevent disease, with really being meticulous with our label reading to make sure that it's got the stuff that we want to put in our bodies that are going to be healthy for us, and not bringing on a disease.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I think we live in a culture where keeping things simple, right? Being able to pull a box of cereal or granola bars or whatever it is out of your cupboard or refrigerator and just pouring something easily into a bowl is kind of the norm, right? And I think the other sort of general principle that I try to follow and that I think is so important, along the same lines of what you were saying, is to try to eat as many whole foods, unprocessed foods as possible.
Yes.
And,
yes, sure.
In our house, we've kind of made it fun to make our own granola bars or make our own granola, and breads and things like that, that certainly can be a heck of a lot easier to pull it out of a box or off a shelf or a bag or whatever from the grocery store. And we do that as well. And we try to, when we can make the time and have the time, we try to balance it out with making our own, that we know those preservatives and processed kinds of things just aren't present. So
I love that you're making it fun with your family, and I think that is such a great idea that we can present some of these ideas as not laborious but fun, and you feel so good when you eat them, right? When you make that granola and you're pouring that into your bowl, and then you have your milk in it of your choice, and you're putting your berries on top of that. I mean, that is like an amazing breakfast right there, and it was fun, and you know exactly what's in there, and you make enough of it. I think one of the maybe shortcuts or hacks to eating healthy is batch cooking. So you when you're going through the trouble of making these foods, you can batch cook these things so that you can either store them appropriately and they'll last, and you can pull it out and, oh, I have this granola here that I made a week ago and this is great, and it's right there for you. So we just have to kind of think maybe differently than maybe going to the grocery store and picking that out. But if we make our own, there are definitely shortcuts and ways that we can minimize the work involved. And a lot of it, if we look at it like it's just a fun process that we can do as a family, that certainly helps too.
absolutely. Absolutely. Another thing, just as we're coming up and kind of talking about, right, cooking and spending time making foods and things like that, is just this idea that even thinking about food and about taking time for food prep or what I'm going to eat, those kinds of things. I know for me, when I am stressed or overwhelmed or super busy, but especially when I'm stressed and overwhelmed, it becomes really hard for me to, one, be motivated, or two, have the mental and emotional bandwidth to even think about doing stuff like this. And I'm wondering what that's like for you.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, and we alluded this a little bit when we were talking about the different types of foods and kind of the impact that it has on our brains, right? But I can speak for when I don't get enough sleep, my sugar cravings go out the roof, and it's just one of those things that I give myself grace to. And I think if you're a busy mom with kids or you have a busy life with work and you're just busy, it's the other thing. You don't have to be perfect. I think if you can get this 80% of the time, that's probably a high goal, but if you can do things 80% of the time as your goal to be like, okay, I'm going to eat right 80% of the time, and maybe 20% allow yourself some grace with this, so that if you're under a lot of stress, or you didn't sleep well, or for some reason, or you just have lots of things going on in your life, to allow yourself a treat. The difference is not eating the whole thing, right? The difference is not having an entire package, or, it's just all or nothing. I think we want to have that balance, and we want to look at eating healthy as not a diet, but as a lifestyle. Like, this is something you're going to do for your life, and trying to figure out if I need to batch prep food, if I need to do some meal planning, if that's going to be easy. And we certainly can talk about that, but ways that are going to put this into a lifestyle, so that it's not something you have to think about. It's just something that you do, and you do it because you feel better and you have more energy and your body is responding, your skin is glowy, and you just feel good. So we want to do things repeatedly that make us feel good, but we also don't want to have to be kind of thinking and getting stressed about what we're going to be eating. So yes. We kind of want it to be incorporated in a way of convenience and ease, because like you said before, that's what we're used to. So we can probably talk about some shortcuts and ways to make eating healthy part of your lifestyle, because it's just super important. It's super important.
Definitely. Yeah. So... yeah, and I want to spend a few minutes definitely talking about some of our tips for making this easy and really incorporating this into lifestyle. Before we go there, if it's okay, yeah. I think what I'm hearing you say, and I think one theme that's running through this conversation, at least in my mind, right, is that we're talking about this concept of eating to support our bodies, right? Eating to live, as opposed to, this is a little cliche, but living to eat, right?
Right.
And so really thinking about food as a fuel for your body, and to support your body, I think is a really valuable perspective, at least for me, to stay grounded in. And then the second thing that I just want to close the loop on as well, is this idea of for me, how my emotions impact how much bandwidth I feel like I have for food prep, as well as my appetite and what I crave and the direction I go, right? So, and I think there's significant variability in this. And, definitely there are people out there who, when they get stressed, they stress eat, right? And really have very little in terms of a filter or thinking about what they're eating and or what they're consuming. And then there are people on the other end of the spectrum, and this tends to be me, that when I get stressed, I can't eat, right? I feel nauseous. I feel like, and I have no appetite, and actually food makes me feel kind of sick.
Yeah.
And so I think being aware of your own patterns, I think, is so, so important, and taking the time and working with a professional to process that stuff, and to even process and think about, sit with your attitude towards food, if that's something that is really a centerpiece maybe in your life, or that seems important, because often just taking the time to do some exploration and some work around that can be so, so valuable. I know it has been.
I
for
agree.
me.
I agree. I think I would add to that another way to try to see where you are with this is to just get a food journal out. And I know it's hard, but if you just commit to writing down what you eat for 2 weeks, just for 2 weeks, and you write down, you might be surprised at maybe some of the things that you find right there, maybe gaps of places where you need to, I need to be a little bit more intentional on my lunch because I'm skipping lunch because I've got this to do. And maybe if I do this ahead of time, that might ease. So I have something right there that I can eat. Or healthy snacks for kids. What does that look like? We're in a hurry to get to the next event. So I grabbed this and just kind of tracking that, I think is kind of like your light bulb, your aha moment to think, okay, where are areas that I can improve? And it'll show up on paper. It doesn't show up so much up here when we're trying to recall things. But it will show up if we track it on paper. So one of the ideas definitely is just being intentional. Just take 2 weeks and just say, I'm going to write down everything I eat for 2 weeks and see what that presents.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. So I think that's a great segue into, are there hacks or tips that you like to pass on to people for eating healthy, for ways to approach this and really incorporate it into life?
I know it's so hard, right? With trying to get everything that we need to eat sometimes. But I think I would recommend, as a breast cancer survivor, I try to eat between 8 and 10 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. And you think, how in the world can you possibly do that? And I'll tell you, I eat a lot of smoothies, a daily smoothie, where I pack a lot of stuff in. And I'm one of those, I am one of those that pack a lot of
Clean out the fridge.
And then I would say salads, kitchen sink salads. A lot of things. And I can batch prep a salad if you don't dress it with dressing. So you make a dressing, put it on the side. I batch prep salads so that it's there when I'm hungry or I'm in between things and it's already done. Or I can have it for dinner even. Lots of protein. So for me, it would be plant-based protein sources like quinoa and nuts and seeds and things like that. Or maybe an almond butter-based dressing with healthy oils. Might look at that. But I would add it at the end. And then another food idea to get all that stuff together would be soups. So soups, salads, and smoothies, it's kind of my go-to where I can get a lot of things packed into one sitting. Yeah. How about
Absolutely.
you? Have you
Yes.
discovered some of those things that
Yeah.
make you feel good? And because you know, right? It's like you're talking
Absolutely.
the talk, but you're walking the walk too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's interesting that you bring up plant-based diets and because I think for both of us, being intentional about protein is so important.
Absolutely.
I was a vegetarian for a really long time and found that I really wasn't able to do that for myself in a really healthy way.
Yeah.
And so while I'm not a big fan of meats of any kind, I find for me, I actually need to eat a little bit of meat, excuse me, to get adequate protein. But I think the key is whatever protein source you use to get upwards of 1 gram per pound of body weight a day to support healing and increasing muscle mass in our bodies, right? Or even maintaining muscle mass as we age, right? So for a 150-pound person, that's 150 grams of protein. And then to split that up in small aliquots throughout the day of, 30 to 50 grams, ideally 30-ish grams of protein per serving. So that is something I would say as a centerpiece for me. But the way that I approach food and eating is to plan ahead, right?
Yeah.
To be intentional and to think about it ahead of time, and make that the sort of the guide that we follow, that I follow personally, and that we follow as a family for what we're doing, and that allows us to follow some of the principles that we've been talking about. So
I love that. And that was my question. How much protein would you recommend? And thank you for covering that, because I think there's a lot of confusion out there. But I would say, for everybody out there, if you want to at least start with shooting for half and then
Yes.
work your way up, might be
Absolutely.
easier, because sometimes it's like, whoo, how am I
that's a
gonna
lot. There are lots
reach
of
that
days
big
I
number?
don't hit my protein goal. I'll just own it, right?
Yeah, and that's okay.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
a good goal. It's a good goal, and it's just good to be aware. So again, reading labels, right, guys? Just make sure that they're what you're eating is clean, and even the protein powders that you're choosing out there. There's certainly a couple I could recommend. We'll save that for another time. But there'll be some really amazing information linked in the show notes, so you guys check out those. There'll be some PDF cheat sheets, and also we're going to bring up one of our favorite recipes and share it with you guys.
Yes, definitely.
I'm really excited to share with you all that I've created a 10 recipe bundle. There'll be the link below, and we're really excited to share this with you, and you can find that in the show notes.
Definitely. So hopefully this has been a helpful conversation. Obviously, so much more we could talk about related to this topic. We want to know what you want to know, right? What are your questions for us? What can we, could we spend more time talking about more in the future? That would be helpful. So Let us know, provide your feedback, comments, like us, if if this has been helpful to you. And thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, it's a joy. It's been a joy, and hopefully it's been valuable, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah. All right, Catherine.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
This podcast is here to support you. If you liked it, please rate, review, follow, and share, since that's the best way to grow a community together. Please leave us comments and feedback. We're here to help.